so I was like, whoa, what is this magic? I need to tell everybody about it.
The price of wellness, going on ice to improve mental health.
When we took that first sip, I was like, this is kind of exactly what I was hoping for.
The craft behind the brew at this hop house in Burnside.
And kicking off African Heritage Month with an ocean of song. This is The Signal.
Hi, and welcome to our first live stream of 2025. This past Sunday, a bar in Halifax hosted a very cool event.
Most people spend the winter trying to stay warm, but some people at the Oxford Tap Room chose to get very, very cold. Jack Sponigal reports.
This is cold!
It's called Plunge and Pint. The event sees people sit for 2 minutes in near freezing water before warming themselves up with a pint. The event is put on by Serendip Therapy's Mandy Morgan.
I'm a yes friend, and my friend was like, hey, do you want to go jump in the middle of Chocolate Lake in wintertime? And I was like, you're nuts, but sure. The benefits that I didn't even know existed started happening to me. I was beating anxiety, depression, you can name it, focus, happiness. And so I was like, whoa, what is this magic? I need to tell everybody. Here you go.
And now she does, sharing the magic of cold dips with those bold enough to try it for themselves.
I don't know if you saw, I had to catch my breath, right? For probably about 10 or 15 seconds just to, but once you do that, once you convince yourself to get over the shock of the water, it's kind of invigorating.
It was different. I found it much colder than the lake and the ocean, in a controlled environment too, with that much like ice and everything, just focusing on that moment. Very different.
Once you're in there, like staying in there for 2 minutes, it does take a bit of like focus, and the breathing to ground yourself really helps for sure.
What went through my mind was like, why am I doing it? Yeah, why am I doing it? But once you're in it, you're in it. It was tougher than I thought, but feeling very fresh.
Yeah, it's very surprising. Most people, actually the people that say no immediately are normally the ones that need it the most. If you can just take a chance on yourself, then you'd be surprised.
Jack Sponigal, The Signal. Stay frosty, Halifax.
Yesterday, The Signal went down to Rumors, a gay bar on Lower Water Street. Joe, you spoke to one of the men behind the new hotspot?
That's right, Kendra. Rumors markets itself as a nightclub. It hosts drag shows, raves, and other queer shows. We spoke to Gerald McCohen, a co-owner and openly gay military veteran. We'll be talking to Gerald McCohen, a co-owner of Rumors, learning his journey and his story, going from serving in the military to now running Halifax's premier gay bar.
So you had to be quiet. It wasn't like the Americans where don't ask, don't tell. It was just don't tell. Mm-hmm. So you would actually get kicked out, and the military police would actually go around and try to kick out gay soldiers back in the day. It was really kind of ludicrous, but that's where it was. Afterwards, I wanted to open up a safe space, a bar for our community, so at least they'd have somewhere place to go where they know they can be themselves. So we got 15,000 likes on Rumors article coming out. It was amazing. We've been picked up by a national news magazine on the internet, and it went viral. Picked up by Toronto, Winnipeg, a bunch of other major cities in the country. CTV's picked us up. Global's done 2 interviews on us already. So CBC followed one of their interviews too. So we've definitely got a lot of support out there for us. So it's pretty amazing that so many people are interested in us, and it's great to see. And every single person is being themselves. People come up, dresses, males. It's just, I had this couple, it still blows me away that they came all the way down from Moncton, and this guy was 6'5". He had a white dress on, done up to the nines, beautiful. His partner was female, and they hugged me and thanked me for the space. Come all the way from Moncton, just come here to be themselves. You should see on a Friday and Saturday night how many people in here are themselves and having fun. We never have any incidents. Cabaret licenses are open later, so they can have a lot of more issues because people drinking later at night. Obviously, they've been drinking for a while, things like that. So, but here they have fun. They're dancing and having good times. Some intoxication, but we watch it very, very carefully. We have a house of a code of conduct for the bar. It's at the front door. If you have any issues, you have to go. It's that simple. We don't put up with anything. Is zero tolerance here. So that really, from that point, our security knows who our guests are and maybe who our guests aren't. And then we just watch everybody and just watch everybody have a good time. Any incidences, they got to go.
Now to another gay bar in Halifax, the Stardust Bar and Kitchen on Barrington.
They host an LGBTQ plus friendly event. It was called Music Bingo. Mark Perro was there.
Well, welcome to Stardust for Music Bingo. My name is Alex, I'm your host.
To take on a classic, just getting people a little bit more involved. Bingo tends to be very just sit around waiting for numbers to be called. So Music Bingo is a fun way to get people all sort of engaged.
Are we ready to play?
There was a bit of a need for the queer community to have sort of spaces to gather. You know, trivia nights and such exist in most bars, but there wasn't really a space for the community to gather.
Coming up on The Signal.
Most of the people are in it for fun. And to make a little bit of money too.
Vintage valuables at the mansion. These are your Nana's knickknacks.
That's later on The Signal.
Burnside Brewing Company is a local craft brewery in Dartmouth. They let their brewers come up with new beer creations. And Kendra, you paid them a visit?
Yep, Burnside Brewing released a new beer yesterday. And as you'll see, they created it in a fantastic way.
Here at Burnside Brewing, every brewer gets a chance to create a beer they want. This week, they're releasing the Werewolf.
So this beer came out of one of our brewers' heads. He decided American Porter was a style he wanted to experiment. I think as a manager of the business, I think it's really important that we get some input from all kinds of folks. And Logan came to us with this great idea.
The idea was to create an American Porter. They named it after brewer Logan Wolfe. He's originally from small-town Ontario. He started as a film student, but eventually fell in love with creating products you can drink.
I'm a big fan of darker beers in general, and that's something that I kind of noticed a hole in our one-off slate, so I wanted to fill that. American Porter is similar to a porter, but it has a lot more hop character, and I've always liked the hoppier beers myself. Hops are added in as a bittering agent, as also as a flavoring agent. So when you're talking about a hoppy beer, people consider that to mean bitter. It doesn't always necessarily have to.
The process of creating your own beer can be tedious, but Wolfe says it was easy because he knew what he wanted.
Is that purge done on 5? You never really know until it's done what it's going to taste like. You should have a basic understanding in the ingredients you put in, but you never know until you take the sip. When we took that first sip, I was like, this is kind of exactly what I was hoping for. It does have the bitterness edge to it. It does taste like American hops. It's got a perfect color, and I was extremely happy with the outcome.
A brewer we spoke to said it's not common for brewers to create their own beers, but Burnside Brewing wants their brewers to have a chance to howl in the light.
I like to make sure that every one of our brew team gets a chance to kind of let their hair down, so to speak, once a year, and just kind of like, what do you want? What do you want to do for you? And Logan came to us with this great idea.
They only made one batch of Werewolf, so make sure you wolf it down before it's gone.
Now to the buy and sell business of vintage and collectibles. It's become more popular in Halifax.
Vintage vendor John McKay recently opened a new store, the Vintage Mansion. McKay shared his story with Laura Flight.
Stories like these, and it transforms.
So I've been in this business my whole life, since I was a child. I was at flea markets and yard sales and antique shows and had other stores. This particular store opened November 22nd of this year. This is a collective of vendors, and each room has a different vendor, and there's 16 vendors in here right now.
My kids like to call me a hoarder, but I don't know, I just held on to all these things, and I go shopping. I've shopped for lots of them and just held on to them for years and years and years. So I take new beads and I take vintage necklaces and bracelets and I take them apart, and then I put them all together and make new stuff.
I run the Funky Flea Market as well, which is a different type of business than this. This is very curated, the flea market, anybody can set up. Vintage has really taken off in the past few years, so there's been an upsurge of people opening vintage stores because there's a demand for it. One of the differences between an antique store and a vintage shop, antiques in Canada, technically 60 years old. Collectibles, you know, they could be not so old, but vintage, I believe the definition these days is 20 years old. A little tip for wannabe vintage people. When you're buying and selling antiques, vintage, whatever, you make half your money when you buy. And people don't realize that. You make half your money when you buy, because if you do not buy it at the right price, then you can't sell it. I just got this in now. It looks pretty ragged, but a girl came in here the other day and she was cleaning out her father's closet. And she remembers wearing this in the 70s, right? I love the sign, 5 cents a dance. I don't think anybody's ever paid me for a dance, but we just all kind of work together in the business and make it fun.
Wednesday was the opening day of the 41st African Heritage Month.
The theme this year is Legacy in Action, celebrating Black brilliance. Gabrielle Drapeau reports.
Let us march on till victory, and let us march on till victory.
One of the things we were talking about was the legacy of our elders in the African Nova Scotian community, how they set the table, as it were, for the next generations. And ultimately, we will be, as a legacy ourselves, setting the table for the next generation, our youth. We are a part of the Canadian fabric. As a distinct people here in Nova Scotia, the Black community is a builder of Nova Scotia and of Canada. We have lived in this province since the 1600s. We are a part, the very fabric of this province. We celebrate African Heritage Month 365 days, 366 in a leap year. So it's an ongoing recognition and celebration of our Black brilliance, and looking at how we introduce that to the new generation and how we keep reminding older generations of that brilliance and getting them to pass that story on.
Thanks for watching The Signal at the University of King's College School of Journalism. I'm Kendra Gannon.
And I'm Joe Van Wonderen. For more news stories from King's, follow The Signal on YouTube or go to signalhfx.ca. See you next week.